I'm Jan Buzzboom, and I'm a retired professor in animal science, and we raise sheep. And this is my ewe, Strawberry, and she's been not behaving very well, not allowing one of her lambs to nurse a lot. So I caught her, and actually caught her with a shepherd's crook out here. But now I have her, and you notice that I'm holding her head up like this, because when I have her with my hand under her jaw here, I can control her, because if you can control the head, you can control the sheep. If you let her get her head down, then she has the power, and when I have it up here, I have the power to be able to control her and not allow her to go where she might want to go. So real important to be able to have control of the head. So we're going to talk about some ways to catch sheep and to look at how sheep move around people and around each other. The sheep here are sheep that have been handled a lot, and so their flight zone, which you probably are learning about in class, is fairly short for the most part, so that I can move pretty close to them before they're going to actually respond. And we'll just do that with a few of them here, and you can see how different ones respond, because some will have bigger flight zones than others. And when we get in with the rams, you may see that they may not have a flight zone at all. They may come right to me, and hopefully not come right to me too fast, trying to hit me. So we will work with that in a little bit too. So I'm going to just walk up to a couple ewes here, and you can see how they move. Coming up, and now that made her move forward. Okay. If I come up directly behind a ewe, which she's not going to let me do because she's circling, which is a normal behavior pattern as well. So let's try coming at her from the front. And she's going to turn because they see better from the side than they do directly in front of them. So that's what she was doing. And here you see some that have no flight zone, because these are lambs that are on our milk bar, and so they're used to getting their food from me instead of from their mom. So this is a ewe that doesn't have a big flight zone. Her name is Amy, and she's pretty tame. And so with her, catching her is pretty easy. And with many of them, it's not too hard if I walk up to them gently. The other way, besides using a crook, and I use a crook when I'm out in a pasture like this a lot. If they're standing or sitting, I can sometimes get up to them and get the crook on them before they even get up and start moving away from me. But the other way is to feed them. And when you feed them, they usually put their head in a feeder, and then you can catch them while they're immobilized in that way. And so in a minute, we'll show you some of the other ways, because you want to, if you're trying to catch sheep or work sheep, you want to limit their options. And so having a bunch of sheep, like if I want to go catch that sheep and I just start chasing it, she's going to move away from me, and I'm not going to be able to catch her. And so I need to be able to limit their options. I may have been able to have caught her with this, but normally if you're just chasing sheep around, that's a bad way to catch them. And we'll show you a few ways to help limit options. Even when you don't have a fancy working facility, you can do things that make it to where you can limit their options and you reduce the stress that you put on the animals. So we're going to talk a bit about how to catch sheep, and you can hear lots of sheep in the background, unfortunately, and I will try to talk loud. So I have two pieces of equipment in my hands. I have a shepherd's crook. This is a very nice shepherd's crook that works well for catching sheep, especially ones that aren't overwhelmingly strong. And then I have a panel which helps me to get them cornered and reduce their options. You can also use longer panels to really get them in tight and then catch them once they're completely confined. And that is important to try to reduce the options on the sheep. If you have a really fancy, expensive working facility, you can get them into the working facility and that, but even in a situation like us, where we don't have a fancy facility, we can catch sheep without overly stressing the animals, and that's the idea of what we're going to try to do. So, I'm going to put my crook down for now, and I'm going to go catch a ewe, and I'm going to go I've now limited the options on these 2 ewes to where I can now get in there and pretty easily catch them by hand, and I will now do that. And what you want to do once you catch a sheep is to get their head up, because if you have control of the head, you can move the sheep and you can keep them under control. If they get their head down, they have control. So you need to keep that head up in the air, and then I can lead this ewe and take her where I want her to go. All right, so this is a Hampshire ram. He's probably about 13 months old, maybe 14. And we're going to go over the body parts on a ram. This is a ram that's really more of a show ram kind of a buck, or a club lamb type of a buck. He's got a lot of muscle. He's also real structurally correct as far as levelness of top, and he's pretty showy. Got a lot of flash to him. So starting from the front, we have the head, and this is called the poll here on the top of the head, and then we have the neck, and then we move into the shoulder, and the shoulder is where shoulder cuts come from on a lamb as well. As we move back behind the shoulder, this area in here is called the rack. The rack on a lamb, it's the most valuable cut on a lamb, and it's also very, very important in the evaluation of show lambs. Then we move back to the loin, and the loin is from the 12th rib. There's 13 pairs of ribs, and the 13th rib actually is part of the loin. And so the loin is back in here, and this is an area where if you're handling a lamb, you can really get a handle on the lamb, because you can wrap your hands all the way around that loin muscle, which is right in here. That's called the longissimus dorsi muscle, and it runs all the way from the hip up into the shoulder. And it's the muscle that, like on a T-bone in a beef, is the big muscle on a T-bone steak. And again, it's a big muscle, and you can actually see some shape of that muscle right in here. It's a great big muscle on this lamb, and runs again from here all the way back into the hip. Largest muscle, and by far the most valuable muscle in a sheep or in cattle as well. And then in the loin area, we have 3 dimensions to the loin. We have length, we have width across, and we have depth of loin. This lamb is really good on depth of loin. He's okay on width of loin, and he's very fine on length of loin as well. Then we come in to what we call the rump, or the hip, and in a show lamb especially, you like to have a real level hip. This lamb, ram, is particularly level in his hip structure, and you like him to come out square back here, as he does. And then we come down into the leg. So this is the leg, and you like to have a lot of muscle in the leg. You like it to carry down deep into the leg, and this ram does that quite well also. Now when we look at feet and leg structure on this ram. If you look at his pasterns, his front pasterns, he's got maybe just a tad too much slope to his pastern, but not bad. The back pasterns are actually quite good. They're pretty straight with just a little bit of flex in them. The flex to his hocks is also quite good. And there is one defect structurally in this ram. We have to look at the front end on that. You can see his toes toe out in front. You like those toes to toe pretty much straight ahead. They toe out a little bit. That's probably tolerable as well. But he toes out a little more than what, at least I think, is really ideal. But he has so many other good characteristics that we're going to tolerate it in this ram. I'm going to demonstrate how to put a sheep on its rear end so that you can work on their feet, or you can do treatments and various other inspections once you have them flipped. What you want to do, I have my right leg right up against the rib cage and my other one in front, and I have a hold of the head. What I'm going to be doing is taking the head back and then grabbing the flank and dropping my foot that was holding it up on the rib cage back, and then the ewe will fall down like this. You can see this is a ewe, has a very nice udder, and I have her in pretty good control right where I have her now. This would be where you could shear the sheep, or I can trim the hooves while she's in this position. And she's relatively comfortable in this position. So, this is the front foot. I'm separating the front foot and getting all the manure that accumulates in between, getting that out from in there. And then I look into the center of the hoof, and sometimes we get what's called foot scald, and this will be really white and wet inside there. She has a really healthy foot inside here, and so she does not have foot scald, at least on this foot. Then you're going to clean some of the manure out inside the hoof. Her hooves are not too overgrown, but she has enough to trim, and we trimmed her probably about a month ago. So I took that down to where it's flush with the bottom of the hoof. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. So she's got, there's not much to take off on the back most of the time. And then we'll do the other side, taking it off flush. Trimming a little off the back on the heel, trimming a little off the inside, and a little off the toe here, and it's flat. And I got that as close as you would want, because I can see right underneath. If I went much deeper, she'd be having some blood, which I try not to do that. So I got her just about right. So again, I'm trimming the dirt out from in between, or the mud, cleaning the hoof. She was a little bit lame on this hoof, so I'm thinking I may run into a little bit of foot rot or a crack or something, but I don't see anything yet. The hoof seems quite healthy so far. So now we'll trim the other side. This is a very calm ewe, because a lot of ewes, if they had a lamb that wasn't theirs nursing on her like this, they'd be going pretty crazy. It could just be that the mud between the toes was hurting her and causing her to be a little lame, because her hoof looks really healthy as I trim it. Now we'll have a look at the hind legs. Hind foot, I mean. And again, we've got a lot of manure in between that we'll get out of there.
Alright, so we're going to discuss a little bit one of the key aspects of animal production, which is the clinical assessment of an animal. Clinical assessment of the health of an animal. The first thing that you need to assess first is the eyes, first is the head. Eyes and then the mouth. Check that the eyes have normal color, doesn't have any abnormal color such as, yellow mucus or reddish mucus. Also, another important aspect in the health of a ruminant anyway is the mouth. Mouth needs to be free of sores, free of any abnormal thing. Also, you need to check the teeth, and then we will in later videos we will assess that thing. Also, you need to assess the conformation of the animal. This animal is pretty sound, as you can see or you saw in the previous video, but it is important for males and females to be structurally sound, so they need to be able to walk in order to eat. Another thing that is important whenever you assess an animal that is somewhat sick, you need to consider the heartbeat and you need to check the temperature of the animal. Usually the place that we check the temperature of the animal is either rectally or vaginally in some females, but usually is rectally, so you need to have a thermometer, which are pretty cheap. And also you can see or you can hear the heart. The heart usually is located on both sides. You can assess on both sides, either the left or the right. The heart is located between the third and the sixth rib. So it is hard to count because some of these animals are covered in flesh and there is the wool sometimes or the skin. So an easy way to determine where is the heart, you need to assess where this elbow joint is located, and then you're going to put your stethoscope way in. Alright? So usually it's easier to do it on the left side so you can hear better the stethoscope. So this is a stethoscope. As you can see, there is two quantities will go to your eyes. And one way to determine what's the correct position is this thing should be pointed to your eyes. So I'm going to put it like that, and I should be able to hear everything. Alright? As I mentioned, it is important to determine where is the elbow. So you're going to put your stethoscope and then you're going to put it way up. And then you're going to hear loop doop, loop doop, loop doop. You can take the heartbeat for about a minute. Alright, you can take it for 30 seconds and then multiply by 2. This will tell you if the animal at least has any cardiovascular problem or any particular disease. Another thing that you can consider is assess the respiratory field. Alright, which is here you have your scapula, so you're not going to hear anything on this area, but you're going to see a line here. Here you're going to have your thoracic vertebrae. But if I put my stethoscope on this triangle, I can hear somewhat the lungs. So a normal respiratory sound should be free of any abnormal sound, such as gargling or rasping kind of sound. Okay, so it is important to assess on both sides. Right now we have this wall, so I'm just going to demonstrate on the left side. Because sheep, goats, cattle are ruminants, it is also important to determine the ruminal health. If you remember your class of nutrition, the rumen is usually located on the left side of the animal. It's a big chamber, big fermentation chamber, right? Here we have more or less the diaphragm. Here you have the sternum, right? The diaphragm will run like this. So the rumen will be located on this area. So sometimes animals or ruminants, they have some diseases that they can impact the health of that particular rumen. So you want to listen the rumen. So one way to do it is assess where is the last rib of the animal, and then you're going to put your stethoscope right behind the last rib. Here you're going to do this kind of sound, and you will hear like a ping ping ping, which is normal because the top of that particular rumen is full of gas. If we move further ventrally, we're going to put it right here, and then we're going to do our movement. Here, you can hear some kind of gassy movement, and if we move further or ventrally, we're going to do this, and then here you're going to hear liquid. This is normal. In the rumen there are 3 areas: the gas area, foam area, and then on the bottom of that particular rumen it's going to be fluid. This is just a rectal thermometer, really easy, really cheap. You can find them in Walmart. They're about $5. So it's a really great tool to determine if an animal is sick or not. Fever or high temperature means fever, so the animal is fighting probably an infection. Hypothermia is also very bad. Hypothermia is below the temperature. In sheep, usually the temperature goes between 100 to 102.5 Fahrenheit degrees. There are many ways to measure the temperature in an animal. Usually the most common one is rectally, but in females some people use vaginally. So in order to determine where's the rectum, here is really easy because it's a male. So the only orifice that you are going to find is the rectum. So usually what we do, we turn it in, you're going to hear a beep, and then slowly you're going to introduce, and then what you need to do is just put it close to the wall and then wait until there is a beep. All right, why we push it to the wall? Because sometimes there is a lot of fecal content in the middle of the rectum, so you put your thermometer right there, you might pick up abnormal temperature. So it's always better to put it on the side, slightly introduction. Then we're going to wait. So right now the reading is 103.2. This is a little bit higher, but this animal has been handled a lot, so this is probably normal.
Okay, so this is a yearling ewe, and we just processed her lambs, and now I'm also going to give her a selenium vitamin E. It'll be subcutaneous. In the lambs, I gave it on the flank, but for this ewe, we're going to do it under the skin in the neck. So I'm going to hold this ewe's head up, and I'm going to hold her tight. And then I'm going to pinch the skin. I got to reach through the wool. The wheel goes right underneath the skin. And she gets, I gave her lambs 0.25 mil. She's going to get a half of a mil of muci. Good girl.